The sun beat down hard that day, making the air shimmer above the hot concrete. It was the kind of summer heat that made your clothes stick to your skin. Big Shaq wiped his forehead with the back of his hand as he pulled his big black SUV into Pete's gas station, a small place on the edge of town that had seen better days. Big Shaq wasn't his real name, of course. People started calling Michael Johnson that after his basketball days, when he became known for his charity work instead of his slam dunks. He was a mountain of a man with kind eyes that missed very little. Today, he was running late for a youth center opening across town. He promised the kids he'd be there to shoot some hoops with them, but his gas gauge was flashing empty, and he knew he wouldn't make it without a fill-up. As he stepped out of his air-conditioned car, the heat hit him like a wall. He stretched his long legs and looked around the station while the pump did its work. That's when he noticed her. A pregnant woman, her belly round and heavy, was hurrying between the gas pumps. Her blue uniform shirt was dark with sweat down the back. Her name tag read Rita. She looked to be about 8 months along, but that wasn't stopping her from working harder than anyone should in this heat. Big Shaq watched as she helped an old man check his oil, her face tight with discomfort as she bent awkwardly to show him the dipstick. The old man thanked her, but the next customer just honked his horn and pointed at his windshield, not even bothering to say please. Without complaint, Rita grabbed a squeegee and cleaned the man's windows while he sat in his air-conditioned car, not once looking up from his phone. When she finished, he drove off without a word of thanks. "That ain't right," Big Shaq muttered to himself. He kept watching as Rita ran back and forth from the pumps to the little store. A group of teenagers left their trash scattered around their car, and Rita came out to clean it up. A woman spilled her coffee on the ground and walked away. Rita mopped it up. All this time, Big Shaq could see through the store window that the manager, a balding man with a bored expression, never once got up from his stool behind the counter. Rita winced as she straightened up from picking up some trash, one hand automatically going to support her lower back. Despite everything, she still found a smile for the next customer. The pump clicked off, but Big Shaq didn't move to replace it. Something about this situation wasn't sitting right with him. He'd grown up watching his mama work 2 jobs, coming home with swollen feet and tired eyes just to keep food on the table. His success meant nothing if he couldn't help others who were struggling just like his mama had. A car honked behind him, waiting for his pump. Big Shaq nodded an apology and moved his SUV to a parking spot in front of the store. He wasn't ready to leave yet. Something told him he needed to stay a bit longer. Inside the small store, the air conditioning was barely working. A ceiling fan pushed the hot air around without cooling it much. Rita had come inside and was now working the register, a small desk fan pointed at her face. She looked tired, really tired, but she greeted each customer with the same patient smile. Big Shaq grabbed a bottle of water from the cooler and got in line. As he waited, he noticed Rita rubbing her belly in small circles, probably feeling the baby kick. He also noticed how the manager bucked orders at her from his seat without ever offering to help. The more he saw, the more Big Shaq felt that familiar feeling rise up in his chest, the feeling that had led him to start his foundation, build community centers, and fund scholarships. It was the feeling that told him when something needed to change. By the time it was his turn at the register, Big Shaq had already made up his mind. This wouldn't be just another stop for gas. This was going to be the beginning of something important. He didn't know exactly what yet, but he knew one thing for sure: Rita's life was about to change. Big Shaq paid for his water and walked back to his SUV, but he didn't leave. He sat in the driver's seat with the air conditioning running, watching Rita through the windshield. He took a long drink of cold water and thought about the baby shower gifts sitting in his trunk. His sister was expecting next month, and he'd been shopping for her before heading to the youth center event. 20 minutes passed as Big Shaq observed the small gas station. The place needed work. The sign had burnt-out letters, the concrete was cracked, and one of the pumps had an out-of-order sign taped to it. But Rita was the only one trying to keep things going. She moved between customers like she was dancing to music only she could hear, finding a rhythm in the chaos. An old pickup truck pulled in with smoke coming from under the hood. The driver, a worried-looking woman with gray hair, got out and looked helplessly at the engine. Rita waddled over as fast as her pregnant body would allow. Big Shaq watched as she grabbed a rag, carefully opened the smoking hood, and checked something inside. She pointed to the radiator and explained something to the older woman, who nodded with relief. "That girl knows cars too," Big Shaq mumbled to himself, impressed. Rita disappeared into the store and came back with a jug of coolant. She helped the woman add it to her truck, showed her where the cap went, and explained how to check the level. When the woman tried to tip her, Rita shook her head and patted the woman's hand instead. The manager appeared in the doorway, yelling something at Rita. He pointed at the line forming at the register inside. Rita quickly wiped her hands on her uniform, said something apologetic to the truck owner, and hurried back inside. Big Shaq frowned. He'd been watching for nearly half an hour now, and not once had the manager lifted a finger to help. When a delivery truck arrived with supplies, it was Reba who signed for them. When a kid spilled a slushie all over the floor, it was Reba who cleaned it up. When the trash cans overflowed outside, it was Reba who tied up the bags and dragged them to the dumpster, all while carrying a baby inside her. The manager, a heavy-set guy with a permanent scowl, just sat on his stool behind the counter, playing games on his phone or barking orders. Once, when no customers were around, Big Shaq saw Rita lean against the counter, rubbing her belly with a pained expression. The manager said something that made her straighten up quickly and get back to work. "Man, that's just wrong," Big Shaq said to himself, tapping his fingers on the steering wheel. Just then, a group of rowdy teenagers pulled up in a beat-up car. They filled their tank, but then started horsing around, knocking over the windshield cleaner bucket. Water and blue cleaning fluid spread across the concrete. They laughed and got back in their car, driving away with music blasting. Big Shaq expected the manager to finally come out and deal with this mess. Instead, Rita appeared with a mop, one hand supporting her lower back as she bent to clean up. The summer sun beat down on her, and she paused to wipe sweat from her face. That was the moment Big Shaq made his decision. He reached for his phone and pulled up a contact, his business manager, Lou. Lou had helped him invest his basketball earnings wisely over the years. Together, they had bought apartment buildings, restaurants, and even a small grocery store in Big Shaq's old neighborhood. "Lou," he said when his manager answered, "I need you to find out who owns Pete's gas station on Highway 16. You thinking of buying a gas station now?" Lou asked, sounding surprised. Big Shaq watched as Rita finished mopping, then hurried to help an elderly customer pump gas. "Maybe," he replied, "but what I'm really thinking about is buying someone's freedom." As he hung up, Big Shaq knew he wasn't going to make it to the youth center event today. He had found something more important, something that couldn't wait. Sometimes, life puts you exactly where you needed to be. Big Shaq finally stepped out of his SUV again, the heat wrapping around him like a heavy blanket. He'd made up his mind. He couldn't just drive away and forget about Rita. Too many people already looked the other way when someone was struggling. He wasn't going to be one of them. He walked toward the store, his tall frame casting a long shadow across the hot pavement. Inside, the weak air conditioning hit his face. Rita was at the register, scanning items for a mom with two small kids hanging on her shopping cart. The kids were whining about wanting candy, and the mom looked tired. Big Shaq grabbed a cold Gatorade from the fridge and got in line. He watched as Rita smiled at the little kids and pulled out two small stickers from under the counter. The children's faces lit up, and their mom gave Rita a thankful look. Such a small thing, but it made a difference. That's what life was about, the small things that showed you cared. When it was his turn, Big Shaq placed the Gatorade on the counter. Rita looked up, way up, at him and smiled. Up close, he could see dark circles under her eyes. "Hot day to be working so hard," he said casually. "Every day's a work day," she replied with a small laugh that didn't reach her eyes. "Especially when you're doing the job of 3 people," Big Shaq added, nodding toward the manager who was in the back office, feet up on the desk, watching something on his phone. Rita followed his gaze and quickly looked down. "It's just how things are here," she said quietly, scanning his drink. "How far along are you?" Big Shaq asked, pointing to her belly. Her face softened as she placed a hand on her stomach. 8 months next week. Doctor says it's a big baby. Shouldn't you be taking it easier this close to having your baby? Rita's smile faded. "Can't afford to. My husband lost his construction job when he hurt his back." This job's all we've got now, and with the baby coming, she shrugged, not needing to finish. Big Shaq nodded, understanding all too well. Life could turn on a dime. 1 minute you're doing okay, the next you're scrambling to stay afloat. That'll be $2.49, Rita said, changing the subject. Big Shaq handed her a 20. Keep the change. Sir, I can't take. Consider it a baby gift, he insisted gently. For a second, he saw tears well up in her eyes before she blinked them away. Thank you, that's real kind. The manager chose that moment to emerge from the back office. Rita. Those deliveries won't stock themselves, he shouted, not even looking at Big Shaq. Rita's shoulders tensed. Yes, Mr. Denny. I'll get to it right away. Big Shaq felt his jaw tighten. He wanted to say something to this Denny guy, but he knew it would only make things harder for Rita. Instead, he took his drink and nodded to her. You take care of yourself and that baby, you hear? She gave him a grateful look. I always do. Outside, Big Shaq leaned against his SUV and made another call. This time to his lawyer, Putty. She'd helped him set up his foundation and knew how to get things done fast. Putty, I need a favor. Can you meet me for coffee in an hour? He asked when she answered. After hanging up, he looked back at the store where Rita was now struggling to carry a box of supplies to a shelf. The manager was nowhere in sight, probably back in the office with his feet up. Big Shaq had grown up poor. His mama had worked jobs just like Rita's, thankless, hard, with bosses who didn't care if you were tired or sick or pregnant. But someone had given his mama a chance once, a better job with people who treated her like a human being. That chance had changed everything for their family. Now it was his turn to do the same for someone else. As he drove away, Big Shaq's mind was racing with plans. He'd be back tomorrow, and when he returned, he'd have more than just kind words to offer Rita. Sometimes the best way to fix a broken system wasn't to work within it, it was to change the system entirely. The small coffee shop was nearly empty when Putty walked in. She spotted Big Shaq right away. Hard to miss a 6'8" former basketball star, even sitting down. She slid into the booth across from him, placing her leather folder on the table. So what's this emergency that couldn't wait? She asked, pushing her glasses up her nose. Paddy had been Big Shaq's lawyer for 10 years now. She knew when he had that certain look in his eyes, the one that said he was about to do something big. Big Shaq leaned forward. I need to buy a gas station. Paddy blinked. A gas station. That's different from your usual investments. It's not about the money, he explained. It's about the pregnant woman working there. For the next 15 minutes, he told Paddy everything he'd seen at Pete's gas station. How Rita was working herself to exhaustion while 8 months pregnant. How her husband was out of work with a back injury. How the manager treated her like a workhorse instead of a human being. So do you want to buy the place, and what exactly? Paddy asked, taking notes. I want to give Rita and her husband a chance to run it themselves. Fair pay, fair hours. I'll be the owner, but they'll manage it. Paddy nodded slowly. It's a nice thought, but do they have any experience running a business? Does it matter? Big Shaq countered. Rita's basically running the place now, doing everything while that Denny guy sits on his behind. And her husband worked construction. He knows how to fix things, work with his hands. Fair point, Paddy conceded. But have you actually offered them this opportunity? Do they even want it? Big Shaq hesitated. Not yet. I wanted to make sure I could make it happen first. Always putting the cart before the horse, Paddy said with a small smile. Let me look into who owns the place. If they're willing to sell, we can move forward. How long will that take? For anyone else? Weeks? For you? Paddy grinned. Give me until tomorrow morning. Big Shaq slept poorly that night. He kept thinking about Rita, wondering if she was resting or if her back was hurting from being on her feet all day. He thought about what his mama would say if she was still alive. Probably something like, you got the means to help, so you help. Simple as that. His phone rang at 7:30 the next morning. It was Paddy. You're not going to believe this, she said, her voice excited. Pete's gas station is owned by Downtown Property Holdings, a company that's been trying to sell off their smaller assets for months. They've had zero interest in that station. When I contacted them and said I had a buyer, they'd practically jumped through the phone. So they'll sell? Big Shaq sat up in bed. They'll sell TODI if you want. I can have the paperwork ready by noon. By 1 p.m., Big Shaq was signing the final documents in Patty's office. Downtown Property Holdings had accepted his offer without negotiation. They were just happy to unload the struggling gas station. Congratulations, Patty said as he signed the last page. You're now the proud owner of Pete's gas station. Big Shaq shook his head in amazement. That was fast. Money talks, and your reputation helps. Now what? Aren't you going to tell Rita today? Not yet, Big Shaq said thoughtfully. First, I need to learn more about her husband. Find out if they're really the right fit for this. I don't want to get their hopes up if it won't work. Smart, Patty agreed. And what about the current manager, this Denny person? A slow smile spread across Big Shaq's face. I think Mr. Denny might be looking for new employment very soon. As he left Patty's office, Big Shaq felt lighter than he had in months. Basketball had given him fame and fortune, but it was moments like this, when he could use that fortune to make a real difference, that brought him true joy. He checked his watch. If he hurried, he might catch Rita on her afternoon shift. It was time for phase 2 of his plan. The afternoon sun was starting to sink when Big Shaq pulled into Pete's gas station, or rather, his gas station now. The thought still felt strange. He parked near the side of the building and watched for a few moments. Rita was outside wiping down the pump handles, her pregnant belly making it hard for her to bend. Big Shaq took a deep breath and stepped out of his SUV. He had a small paper bag in his hand as he walked toward her. Rita looked up and recognition flashed across her tired face. "Oh, hello again," she said with a small smile. "Brought you something," Big Shaq said, holding out the paper bag. "Nothing fancy, just some peppermint foot cream. My sister swears by it when she's pregnant, says it helps with the swelling." Rita looked surprised, then touched. She hesitated before accepting the bag. "That's really thoughtful. Thank you. How are you feeling today?" he asked. "Same as always," she shrugged. "Baby's kicking up a storm, though." She placed a hand on the side of her belly where apparently the baby was putting up a fight. "Mind if I ask you something personal?" Big Shaq leaned against the pump. Rita looked wary but nodded. "Your husband, what did he do before he hurt his back?" The question seemed to catch her off guard. "Tom? He was a foreman for Bailey Construction. Been building things since he was a teenager. Why do you ask?" "Just curious," Big Shaq said casually. "Good with his hands, then?" "The best," Rita said, pride clear in her voice. "He can fix anything. Our car, our plumbing, even built our kitchen cabinets himself." Her expression fell. "It's killing him that he can't work right now. Doctor says he can't lift more than 20 pounds, maybe ever again." Big Shaq nodded slowly. This was exactly what he needed to hear. "Rita, customers waiting." Denny's sharp voice cut through their conversation. "I better go," Rita said apologetically, heading toward the store. Big Shaq followed her inside. He picked up a few snacks and got in line. When it was his turn, he placed them on the counter along with a business card. "What's this?" Rita asked, looking at the card. "I'd like to meet with you and Tom tomorrow, if you're free, just for coffee." Rita frowned slightly. "Why?" "I have a business proposition that might interest you both." Before Rita could respond, Denny appeared from the back office. "What's going on here?" "There's a line forming," he snapped at Rita. Then he noticed Big Shaq. Something about Big Shaq's expensive clothes or confident stance made Denny change his tone. "Is there a problem, sir?" "No problem," Big Shaq said coolly. "Just making arrangements with Rita here." Denny's eyes narrowed. "Any arrangements with my employees need to go through me first." Big Shaq smiled, but his eyes were serious. "Actually, that's not true anymore." "Excuse me." Denny's face reddened. "We can discuss it tomorrow," Big Shaq said to Rita, ignoring Denny completely. "The coffee shop on Main Street, 10 o'clock. Bring Tom." Rita looked confused but nodded slowly. I'll try." "You'll try?" Denny spluttered. "You're scheduled tomorrow." "She'll be taking the morning off," Big Shaq said firmly. "Family emergency." "And who are you to decide that?" Denny demanded. Big Shaq turned to face him fully now. "The new owner of this gas station." The store went completely silent. The two other customers in line stopped their conversation to watch. Rita's mouth fell open. "That's impossible," Denny said, but his voice had lost its edge. "Downtown Holdings owns this place." "Not since 1 o'clock today," Big Shaq replied calmly. He pulled a folded document from his pocket and handed it to Denny. "You'll find everything in order." Denny's hands trembled slightly as he unfolded the paper. His face paled as he read. "So," Big Shaq continued, turning back to Rita, "tomorrow at 10, it's important." Rita nodded, still too shocked to speak. "Good," Big Shaq said with a warm smile. He paid for his snacks and headed toward the door. Then he turned back. "Oh, and Denny, you might want to update your resume. I'll be making some management changes very soon." As Big Shaq left the store, he could feel Rita's eyes following him. He hadn't planned to reveal his ownership so soon, but Denny's attitude had forced his hand. Now he just hoped that tomorrow's meeting would go well. He had big plans for this little gas station and for Rita and Tom. The coffee shop on Main Street was quiet at 10 in the morning. Big Shaq had arrived early and chosen a table in the back corner where they could talk privately. He was nervous, which wasn't something he felt often these days. What if Rita and Tom didn't show up? What if they didn't want his help? Sometimes pride got in the way of accepting a helping hand. He knew that well enough from his own life. The bell over the door jingled, and Big Shaq looked up to see Rita walk in. Beside her was a tall, broad-shouldered man with kind eyes who walked with a slight limp. Tom, he guessed. The man's hand rested protectively on Rita's back as they looked around the coffee shop. Big Shaq raised his hand and they spotted him. As they made their way over, he could see the uncertainty on their faces. "Thanks for coming," Big Shaq said, standing to shake Tom's hand. "Not sure we had much choice after you dropped that bomb yesterday," Rita said, lowering herself carefully into a chair. "Is it true? You really bought the gas station?" Big Shaq nodded. Papers all signed and official. Tom leaned forward, his expression serious. "Look, my wife says you've been kind to her, and I appreciate that. But what's your angle here? People like you don't just buy run-down gas stations for no reason." "People like me." Big Shaq raised an eyebrow. "Rich folks," Tom clarified, no apology in his voice. "No offense, but nobody does something like this without wanting something in return." Big Shaq respected the man's directness. "You're right to be suspicious, so let me put my cards on the table." He took a sip of his coffee. "I grew up poor. Single mom, 3 kids, never enough of anything. My mama worked herself to the bone at jobs where people treated her like she was nothing. Then one day, someone gave her a chance to be more than just another worker. They saw her value. That chance changed our lives." He paused, looking at Rita. "When I saw you working at that gas station, killing yourself while being 8 months pregnant, something in me couldn't walk away. Not when I'm in a position to help." "So this is charity?" Tom asked, his pride clearly wounded. "No," Big Shaq said firmly. "This is business. A smart investment in good people." He pulled out a folder and placed it on the table. "Here's what I'm proposing. I want you two to manage the gas station." Rita's eyes widened. "Manage it?" "To start with," Big Shaq continued, "Rita would take immediate paid maternity leave, 3 months, full salary. When she's ready to come back, you'd run it together. Tom handling maintenance and operations, Rita doing books and customer service. I'll invest in renovating the place, expanding the store section, maybe adding a small coffee counter." Tom looked skeptical. "And what do you get out of this?" 30% of the profits after expenses. The rest is yours. And if things go well for 2 years, I'll offer you the chance to buy the place from me at a fair price, become full owners." The couple exchanged glances, having one of those silent conversations that only people who truly know each other can have. "Why us?" Rita finally asked. "You don't even know us." "I know enough," Big Shaq said simply. "I know you work harder than anyone at that station, Rita. I know you treat customers with kindness, even when you're exhausted. And from what you've told me about Tom's work history, he knows how to lead and build. Those are the qualities that make a business succeed, not fancy degrees or connections." "What about Denny?" Rita asked. "Already handled. He's getting a generous severance package and 2 weeks to find another job." Tom rubbed his chin thoughtfully. "This sounds too good to be true." "Sometimes good things do happen," Big Shaq said. But I understand your hesitation. Take the contract home, read it over. Talk to a lawyer if you want. I'll pay for that too. All I ask is that you seriously consider it. He stood up, placing a card on top of the folder. My number's there. Call me when you decide, no pressure. As Big Shaq walked toward the door, he heard Tom say quietly to Rita, "Is this for real, babe?" Big Shaq smiled to himself. He'd done what he could. Now it was up to them. 6 months can change everything. Big Shaq stood across the street from what used to be Pete's gas station, taking in the transformation. The faded sign was gone, replaced with a bright new one that read, "Tom and Rita's Service Stop." The cracked concrete had been repaved, the pumps modernized, and the small store expanded to twice its original size. But the biggest change wasn't the building, it was the energy of the place. Even from here, Big Shaq could see customers chatting and laughing with the staff. A local mom and pop business that people actually enjoyed visiting. Who would have thought? Big Shaq crossed the street, spotted immediately by a young man washing windows who waved enthusiastically. One of the 4 new employees Tom and Rita had hired, all local people who needed jobs. The bell chimed as Big Shaq pushed open the door to the expanded store section. Inside, the old dingy shelves had been replaced with warm wood ones. Where there had once been just sad-looking hot dogs spinning on heated rollers, there was now a small but inviting coffee bar with fresh pastries from the local bakery. Well, look who finally decided to check up on his investment. Tom's booming voice came from behind the counter. The man looked like a different person from the tense, suspicious guy at the coffee shop 6 months ago. There was color in his face, pride in his posture. He still walked with a slight limp, but he moved with purpose. Figured I'd give you folks time to mess things up properly before I came back, Big Shaq joked, shaking Tom's hand. Then you'll be disappointed, Tom grinned. We're doing better than the projections your accountant made. I know, Big Shaq nodded. I get the reports. Pretty impressive for your first 6 months. Come on back, Tom said, lifting the counter flap. There's someone who wants to see you. He led Big Shaq through the new stockroom and into a small office at the back. There, sitting in a comfortable chair with a tiny bundle in her arms, was Rita. Her face lit up when she saw Big Shaq. About time you visited, she scolded playfully. The baby's almost 3 months old already. Big Shaq felt a lump form in his throat as he looked at the peaceful infant wrapped in a yellow blanket. Boy or girl? He asked softly. Girl, Rita beamed. Melody Hope. She's beautiful, Big Shaq said, meaning it. Looks just like her mama. Thank goodness for that, Tom laughed. Poor kid doesn't need my ugly mug. Rita rolled her eyes at her husband. Want to hold her? Before Big Shaq could answer, she was already standing and placing the tiny bundle in his massive arms. The baby looked even smaller against his large frame, but she didn't wake, just nestled into the crook of his elbow. We've been waiting for you to visit, Tom said, suddenly serious. We needed to ask you something important. If it's about buying me out, it's too soon, Big Shaq started. Our deal was 2 years. It's not that, Rita interrupted. Though business is good enough that we might take you up on that early. She exchanged a look with Tom. We wanted to ask if you'd be Melody's godfather. Big Shaq blinked in surprise. Me? But you barely know me. Tom shook his head. We know enough. You changed our lives when you didn't have to. Gave us a chance when nobody else would. You believed in us, Rita added softly. We want Melody to grow up knowing the man who showed us that kindness still exists in this world. For once in his life, Big Shaq found himself speechless. He looked down at the sleeping baby in his arms, her tiny hand wrapped around his finger, and felt something shift inside him. All the championships, all the fame, all the money, none of it compared to this simple moment. I'd be honored, he finally managed, his voice rough with emotion. Outside, customers came and went from Tom and Rita's service stop, unaware that inside, something extraordinary had happened, a reminder that sometimes the smallest connections can create the biggest changes in our lives.